I'm Esh, and you're listening to Health Beyond Tomorrow, specifically the second episode in my Moment series. This is a mini-series where I pick my favourite highlights from the conversations I have on my podcast, delve deeper into their significance and what it means for the future of healthcare beyond tomorrow. So sit back and I hope you enjoy. Last episode was all about AI, the AI singularity, and what it means for humanity and how we can prepare. This episode's a bit more down to earth, and I'll be talking about a topic that's been on my mind for a while, and that is how do we cultivate proactive leadership in medicine? The landscape of leadership in medicine is complicated at the least. To many, it feels like a weighty add-on to an already exhausted list of responsibilities. Often leadership roles are seen as burdensome, additional and unpaid tasks. So why would anyone willingly embrace this amplified pressure? Well, in one of my recent podcast episodes with Dr. Umang Patel, Microsoft's Chief Clinical Information Officer, he shed a bit of light into what his driving factors were for wanting to pursue a career in clinical leadership.
I just knew I was going to get frustrated if I didn't at least have a go at trying to work out what was the challenge, what the block was. I think pediatrics is a great specialty, especially one that makes you think, I just can't deal with the problem in front of me, because that may not be all that's there. I think that's true of most of healthcare, but especially with children, and as we were chatting about before, when I was thinking about healthcare in general, it was clear that it couldn't just be healthcare that we needed to fix. It had to be the stuff around it. And I decided that I would love to at least have a go at trying to be part of those processes, part of those ways of thinking. And that led me to doing a leadership fellowship, and it led me to meet some great people that they said, well, why don't you? And I kept pulling out that thread. Somebody said to me, well, what do you think the biggest challenge is? And I thought, well, money is the biggest challenge.
The truth is, I don't think there's enough people that think like Umang. His perspective, though it's refreshing, is also rare. I've been recently trying to get into the habit of recording my thoughts to listen back to them. And this is a voice memo I recorded whilst brainstorming to collate my thoughts during writing an academic paper on this very topic. So I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I think a problem lies in the motivations that actually drive medical students to go beyond the baseline requirements. Certainly, a lot of students will obviously strive for a competitive academic portfolio, but beyond that, I think there's a culture and a temptation in medical school to navigate the course with the least resistance. Challenging the status quo is difficult, and you're inevitably going to get backlash, and I think that backlash just isn't worth it. And we're taught very early on at med school that it's difficult to change the system, and so then once we graduate and become doctors, we carry on those beliefs that it's difficult to change the system, and it is, so why bother? This perspective triggered an intriguing question, which is, are we facing a deficit of emergent leaders in our medical system?
When I talk of shortage of leadership, I do not mean just political leadership. I mean leadership in every walk of life.
I'm optimistic that the answer is not a lack of young medical leaders, rather it's the negative perception of leadership in the realm of medicine. I think the real challenge lies in seamlessly integrating and encouraging enthusiastic young doers into medical leadership roles. So what is the reality of clinical leadership, and how do we do this? Well, Dr. Mike Cantor, who is Uber's chief medical officer, had this to say.
I think our profession is in a crisis where we're not thinking that way as much anymore. We're just following along the rules. And that's not enough for a lot of patients. They need us to be their advocates. And I think that's the other thing that clinical leadership means. It means advocating for the patient first and foremost, and understanding that there's a balancing act. You can't always do everything for every patient, but let's think about it together, clinically, financially, operationally. How does this actually work? And what are the priorities? Let's make them clear, because without clarity around the priorities, you can do anything and you'll be successful, right? The role of the clinical leader is to put the patient's priorities first, not just individual patients, but the population that you're serving, and to make sure that those needs, those clinical needs, are always being met, that the patient experience is the most important factor that you consider. Because once you lose sight of that, it may as well be in a car wash, right? It doesn't matter. You're going to run the cars through and they're going to get their thing. And if someone's mirror is bent, whatever, not a big deal. It's different with people. And that's really what I think clinical leadership is all about. Remembering that these are not widgets, these are people. And we need to take their ideas, their voice, their needs has to be the priority for every healthcare organization, regardless of health plan, health system, provider, home care, hospital care, complicated, simple, chronic, acute. It doesn't matter. It's always about the patients.
But this got me thinking, is this really just the reality of leadership roles? Because they aren't very attractive at the minute. Why is that? And how can we change this?
Leaders need to think about the impact of the psychological challenge of dealing with healthcare. It's not like running a business. It's about human beings, and it's about the difficulties and the challenges that we as clinicians are faced with when we deal with people. How do we manage that in ourselves? And how do we manage that with the patients? So I think we haven't really paid enough attention to the anxiety produced by the kind of work that we do, the uncertainty, the ambiguity, the complexity. It is really not similar to managing an organisation which produces things.
What you just heard was the programme director at the London Business School. She's discussing her views on how healthcare leaders respond to the pressures of their job and their role in ensuring high quality, compassionate care for patients. I think the real reasons for this pressure that she talks about is because of the organisational friction that is required to elicit change. So I'll give you an example. For the last 12 months, I've been pushing for my university to change their stance on tools like ChatGPT in medical school education, with an aim to table the fear of AI and move the narrative away from a tool for cheating to a tool to augment our learning. But it's taken me many calls with faculty members, a podcast with multiple different AI experts and medical educational leads, and persistently sending those podcast episodes to my faculty members, hosting many AI-related workshop and events, along with my personal persistence and grit, bugging faculty members to address the concerns. The problem here was the friction required for a voice to be heard and to elicit change. There's always going to be resistance to change. And while leadership is challenging, I believe it's about fostering a culture of change. It's not just about leading, but instead also empowering.
Secondly, true leadership is not about power. It's about empowerment. Most followers would say about their leader, that's a powerful person. Well, you just exposed the fact that they are not a true leader. A true leader will have followers who say the opposite. That person empowered me. That person made me great. That's a true leader. Number 3, leadership is not about manipulation.
And so this episode serves as an attempt to uplift the spirits of budding medical leaders navigating a seemingly unyielding system. Your tenacity and vision are essential. You're not navigating this journey in isolation. Persistently question the established norms, for your voice and vision are imperative for the future of medicine. If you found value in this episode, then I please ask you to give me a rating on iTunes. I heard that the more ratings you have on iTunes, the more reach that your podcast gets. And so honestly, it would mean the world to me. I have a vision for making this podcast the biggest health innovation and entrepreneurship podcast in the world, and it would mean everything to me if you can help me on my mission to get there. You can check out the full episode with Dr. Umang Patel and Dr. Mike Cantor. The link will be in the description. Till next time, and bye for now.